Hello everyone, George DeSantis here with the look at the market for the week ending June 1st, 2018. Can't believe it's June already. Before we get to the charts, as we usually do, let's take a look at the disclaimer and simply read it, as it will inform you that this is not investment advice. It's basically educational in purpose. And it's mainly for my own purpose, and I share it with others and put it up at YouTube for those who'd like to take a look. So we'll get to take a look at some charts as usual. So let's start looking at some charts on the S&P, the weekly chart first, as we usually do. So on the weekly chart, we see that familiar ABCD triangle. And the triangle, as we've been describing for weeks now, triangle has been moving toward the apex, and price has been moving toward the apex. And more recently, we broke above the upper line of the triangle, this yellow line here. So now we're closing above there. And what next? That's always the best question. What next? Well, if I expand the chart, you can see that this yellow line, the 4 EMA, exponential moving average, is above the 9 EMA, which is the red line. And the red line, the 9 EMA, just barely crossed above the 30 weighted moving average, which is this green line. So what does all that mean? It means that for the first time since we broke down in January, February, that the trend line, the moving averages are now above each other according to their size. In other words, the 4 is above the 9, the 9 is above the 30. So we have that reversal now of what we've had here all along, okay, when we've had this downtrend. So to me, this is a really bullish sign. The second thing I notice here is that we have a bullish engulfing candle. Last week, this candle, the body of this candle, totally engulfs the body of this candle. This candle was also an harami. Remember, we talked about that last week. I did. And this is a bullish harami, sometimes referred to as a pregnant woman. This body is totally engulfed by this body. So we had all these indications of bullish indications here last week. The market is still struggling to get above that critical level of 2750, which is where this line is about here, right? This is 2750 right here. We're struggling to get above 2750. 2750 is the last sort of resistance level we need to break through, and we should be going higher from here. Now we do have the parabolic above the most recent bar, which is last week's bar, of course, and we need to see the parabolic hit by this bar. As we'll see on the daily chart, the parabolic was hit on Friday. That's encouraging from a bullish perspective. As we go down the chart, we can see that MACD has been trending up. MACD histogram has been trending up. It's almost in bullish territory now. RSI 12 is above the 40% line, the yellow line. And Williams percent R is above 50. And the sum of the rate of change indicator, the formula that I wrote in here, and we plotted it in the past, we see that it's above 4%. So the weekly chart looks interestingly bullish to me right now. Let me talk about some other things, and before we get to the daily chart, I want to show you something else. Now, before we go to the daily chart on TC2000, I want to show you what Dr. John Ayler's robo forecaster looks like for the S&P. This is a chart of the spider, which is 1/10 of the value of the S&P. So in this case, the S&P would be what 2736, okay, 2736. But this is a spider, bear that in mind. Now, what he's showing here is that the forecast is slightly bullish, ranging from 271.90 to 281.50. Our target for Friday, June 15, is 277.60. So he is saying that he's expecting a target based on this forecast of 2,776. 2007. So that means that we will break through the 2,750 level, 2750. Remember we saw that on that weekly chart? This is encouraging. And you can see that, you know, these indications here, these swing indications usually work quite well. So I find that to be very, very useful. And we'll take a look now at the daily chart. Now here's a daily chart of the S&P 500. And we can see here, first of all, let's look at the moving averages. We see that if you look closely, it's just barely visible here, but you can see that yellow line is above the red line. So the 4 EMA is above the 9 EMA, and the 9 EMA is above the 30. Definition of an one definition at least of an uptrend. Okay, so now also, as I mentioned when we were looking at the weekly chart, we have Friday's bar hitting the parabolic, and what that means is that we may expect the next bar to have the parabolic below it, so that we will have a reversal in this basic downtrend here. What is this? A reversal here will now be reversed again, because the parabolic should be below the next bar. If that's the case, then it will confirm what we were looking at earlier, that this market should break above the 2750 level and give us a nice week next week, hopefully, as long as we can avoid some of the usual geopolitical whatever, the tweets, etc. Looking at some of the other indicators, MACD did turn negative here, but on Friday it trended up, so that's interesting, that's encouraging. And on RSI 12, well, it's above the 40% line. Williams is above 50, and we like to see that. We're just waiting now to get a more confirmation from the sum of the rate of change indicator. It's still kind of wobbly, you know, up and down above the around the 4% line. So let's hope we could break above it and confirm these other things that we're seeing. So in summary, both the weekly and the daily charts look bullish to me, and I'm pretty much fully invested. I am not, except for the change I made in CRISPR, as I mentioned to you in an email, where I sold half of my position. But we'll talk about that again later on. And before we leave with these charts and look at some individual stocks, let's take a look at a familiar chart we've been looking at. This is a chart of the new high, new low index, and it's just where we want it to be, above the 500 level and trending up. So we look at something else. This is that chart that shows you the impulse indicator. The bars painted red, green, or blue, and you can see that on the weekly chart we have green bars. Green bars indicate to us that we cannot go short. We are not allowed to go short or sell this market short. We're only allowed to go long, which is really bullish. If you look at the daily chart, you'll see that on that we had a bullish green bar on Friday. We fluctuated here a bit, but we ended up with a green bar on Friday. And here's a chart we've seen before. It's a chart of the S&P 100, the percentage of stocks of the S&P 100 that are above their 200-day moving average. And so we're still within that range of 50 to 65, which is a range in which we can do some trading. But until we cross above 65, we still have some caution. Okay? So let's look at some individual stocks. I'll try and go through as many of them from the watch list or the shopping list that I sent you some time ago, from a master watch list that I use. Here, the first one here is XLK, which is an ETF, exchange traded fund of some of the major technology stocks. You know, the Microsofts, the Intels, etc. So I used to own this last year. I owned quite a few shares, but I got rid of it somewhere in here, and I'm back in it again. I bought it again some time ago. XLK. Looks pretty good. Look at these indicators here, all trending up. We'll move pretty rapidly now. Here's Adobe. I have quite a few shares of Adobe. It has done really well. And the one thing I notice here is that on the daily chart, it's hitting the upper Bollinger Band. So it may not be the best time to be a new entry in this, but if you get a pullback here, Adobe could be another good buy. I might even add to it if it pulls back a bit. But look at all these indicators here, all trending up. Love it. Here's Micron. It had a nice run up, and I decided to buy some shares and bought it somewhere in here, you know, somewhere either this day or that or this. I don't remember now, but I bought it here, and it dropped about 6%. When I think a Morgan Stanley analyst downgraded it, but look at what it's got now. It's got an Arami, a bullish Arami, so I'm holding it. I'm down a few $1,000s on it, and I'm holding it. I think this is going to be another stock that continues to go higher anyway. Here's Netflix. I had some calls. I took profits on it. I had a nice gain, about 65% gain, but it continued to go higher. Look at what it was doing here on Friday. I got $8.33. So it's one of those that, you know, I love Netflix, but I don't own anything right now. Here's Visa, daily chart. It had a nice move here on Friday, a little move up Friday. In fact, the parabolic went below the most recent bar. After running up here, this big run up, Netflix was doing some consolidating, and now it seems to be wanting to move a little higher. And these indicators don't look bad, except for the sum of the rate of change indicator crossing below 4%. I'd like to see it go back up above there. But I still own Visa. It's one of my long-term holdings. And here's Microsoft. You know, I made a lot of money with Microsoft back in the 90s and 80s, 90s. But here's what it's doing. It's making new highs. Lots of business in the cloud, etc. So it's making new highs, parabolic below here. All the moving averages lined up properly for an uptrend, and it's really doing great. Glad I bought it. Here's Facebook. It seemed to be breaking out of this consolidation range here and seemed to be wanting to go higher. I do own Facebook again. I bought it back a while ago, some time ago. I've traded it in the past, but I like how these indicators are looking here, and I still have it. Here's PayPal. It's one of the payment systems, as we say, with Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Green Dot. These are all payment systems, and I love these this sector. Well, here's what it's doing. It's looking damn good here. I don't own this right now. I'm like a kid in a candy store. Too much candy I want to buy, not enough cash. There's one that I made some good change with in the past, and it continues to chug along, continues to trend up very nicely. This is Align Technology. You know, the company that makes those plastic braces for your teeth, the straightened teeth. I mean, it looks good. I think we might get a better buying opportunity here because we're getting some dojis, and this could be a hanging man, and so we might get a little pullback here at a better price if we want to buy it again. I don't own it right now. Here's MasterCard, daily chart. Ran up, consolidated, and now breaking out with a squeeze of the Bollinger Bands. You see the dotted line squeezing here? It looks to be wanting to ride the Bollinger Bands up from this squeeze here. So, you know, I might even look to buy some calls on this on Monday. But I like how this looks. MasterCard, look at these indicators trending up here. So maybe some calls might be a good bet here. And before we end, let's look at CRISPR. As you know, I sent you an email saying that I sold half my position. I had a large position in this stock, and I had a tremendous gain. So I sold half of it, but I still like it, and I might do what my friend has suggested to me in the past when I owned Apple, buy some at the money calls. So I will be back controlling another 2,000 shares or so. So I think I might just do something like that. Well, folks, we're out of time. We only have 15 minutes for this. Have a great weekend. Do this again next week.